They mocked my small house, then begged to stay in it. I'll never forget the first time they saw my house. It was a cold Saturday morning sunlight barely piercing through the gray clouds above. I had just moved into the little place on Maple Lania, modest one-bedroom cabin, tucked between tall pine trees with peeling white paint and a slanted roof that creaked when the wind picked up. To me, it was peace. To them, it was a punchline. My cousins, Samantha, Jared, and Nicole, arrived in a sleek black SUV, music-thumping laughter spilling out before they even knocked on the door. I opened it with a smile, proud to show them the first home I had bought with my own savings. But as soon as they stepped inside, the jokes began. "Is this the whole house?" Jared laughed, spinning in a slow circle in the tiny living room. Nicole poked the kitchen counter. "This feels like a dollhouse. Where's the rest of it?" Samantha wrinkled her nose and muttered, "I didn't realize we needed a GPS just to find the bathroom." Their voices stung each word another slap. I tried to laugh it off, but my hands were shaking as I poured the tea. I had worked 3 jobs to afford this place, bartending at night, dog walking in the morning, and designing websites in between. But they didn't see that. All they saw were the cracks in the walls and the secondhand couch. When they left that afternoon, I sat on the porch steps, staring at the gravel road as their SUV disappeared. My chest felt heavy. Not because of the size of my home, but because I had hoped just once they'd see the value in something I built myself. I didn't know then that just 6 months later, they'd come crawling back, desperate, cold, homeless, and that tiny house they mocked, it would become the only thing standing between them and a nightmare they never saw coming. Cliffhanger. What disaster forced them to beg for shelter? It started with the rain. At first just a drizzle. Then the kind of downpour that makes the ground tremble and the sky flash like it's tearing apart. The town had always been prone to rough weather, but this was different. The meteorologists called it the Blackwater Front, a once-in-a-generation storm system. No one was ready. Flood warnings were issued by noon, entire blocks evacuated by nightfall. But the worst was still coming. I was inside, curled up with my book, listening to the wind rattle my shutters when I got the first call. It was Samantha. She never called. Her voice cracked through the phone. "Hey, I know this is awkward, but do you still have that little house out on Maple?" I paused, my fingers tightened around the phone. "Yes. Why?" "We need a place," she said quickly. Jared's apartment flooded. Nicole's place lost power and the roof's leaking. Ours mine and Kyle Stairs water coming through the ceiling. "We can't stay." I blinked. They were begging to stay here. The same people who laughed at my chipped cabinets, my thrifted mugs, my single-space heater. The same ones who said I was wasting my life living like a hermit in a shoebox. And now they needed it. But I wasn't cruel. I didn't gloat. I didn't rub it in. I simply said, "You can come. But you all need to understand this isn't a vacation. It's tight, it's simple, and it's safe. That's all." When they arrived, soaking wet shoulders hunched under the weight of shame and exhaustion, I almost didn't recognize them. The fancy clothes were gone. The smug smiles faded. Their designer boots caked in mud. Their silence, thick, uneasy echoed, louder than any insult they'd ever thrown at me. They stepped into the warm glow of my tiny home like refugees from another world. And for a brief moment, I felt powerful. But the storm wasn't the only thing outside. That night, as the wind screamed and trees cracked in the distance, Jared whispered to me in the hallway, his face pale. "Did anyone else hear that scratching under the floor?" I stared at him. Scratching. What scratching? That's when I realized something was wrong, something far worse than the storm outside. The scratching came again. This time we all heard it. It was faint at first, just a slow drag, like something brushing wood. Then a sharper sound clause, maybe. It moved under the floorboards below the old rug in the hallway. Nicole froze. "You have rats?" she whispered, her voice shaking. "No," I said, because I'd lived here alone for 6 months and never heard a thing. No rustling, no squeaks, just wind creaks and my own footsteps. We gathered in the narrow hallway. I pressed my ear to the floor. Silence. Then scratch, scratch, scratch. It was moving. Jared backed up. "Nope. Nope. I'm not staying here if something's living down there." Samantha rubbed her arms. "Let's just sleep. We're all tired. Maybe we imagined it." But that night, nobody really slept. I heard Nicole pacing. Jared's phone light flickered under his blanket. Around 3 in the morning, I sat on the couch listening. The wind had died down. The storm was still raging, but quieter. Yet beneath all that noise, the scratching came again. Closer now. And with it a sound I couldn't explain. A low hum, not mechanical, not wind. It sounded human. The next morning, I opened the hatch in the pantry floor. It was the old crawl space, no light, just dirt pipes cobwebs. I shined my flashlight inside and lowered myself halfway. Then I saw it. A set of wooden boards different from the rest, nailed into a rectangle like a box or hatch buried in the dirt. In one corner was pried open. Jared leaned over. "What is that?" I didn't answer. I reached down, pulled at the loose board, and revealed a staircase going deeper. A hidden chamber beneath my home. Samantha stepped back. "You never saw that before." I shook my head. The air coming out of the opening was cold, still, and thick with something I couldn't name. We were all staring at the dark hole under my house. And then we heard the voice, low, soft, coming from below. It said my name. Cliffhanger wore what was calling from the hidden chamber. It didn't just say my name. It whispered it, slowly, like it knew me. "Claire." Nicole screamed and bolted to the other side of the room. Jared grabbed the flashlight from my hand and aimed it down the staircase, his knuckles white. "This is some horror movie stuff," he muttered. "No way this is real." But it was, because the voice came again, louder this time. "Claire, come down." My skin prickled, not from fear, from familiarity. That voice, it wasn't just creepy. It was recognizable. I couldn't quite place it, but something about the way it said my name hit a chord deep inside me. Samantha's lips trembled. "We need to call someone. Police, fire department, anyone." But I didn't move. Something kept me rooted, drawn. It didn't feel evil. It felt unfinished, like the echo of a dream I'd forgotten. "I'm going down," I said quietly. All three of them protested loud and panicked. But I grabbed the lantern from the wall and lowered myself through the hatch one step at a time. The wood creaked. My breath steamed in the cold air. Dirt clung to the walls, and the deeper I went, the quieter everything became until even the storm above sounded distant. Then I reached the bottom. It was a room, perfectly square, stone walls, a low ceiling, old furniture covered in tarps, and in the center a mirror. A tall oval mirror with a cracked frame and symbols etched into the glass. I walked toward it slowly. And that's when I saw her. She looked just like me, standing on the other side of the glass. Not a reflection. A woman. She was wearing a long gray dress, eyes. Wide her hand pressed to the mirror from the inside. "Claire." My mouth opened. "Who are you?" She didn't answer. But she raised her hand and pointed behind me. I turned. The stone wall behind me had shifted. A door, slightly open. A gust of wind blew through it. Cold, rotten, and something inside it moved. Cliffhanger. What is behind the mysterious stone door beneath the house? The door wasn't just old. It was ancient. The stone frame pulsed faintly, like it was breathing. The space beyond it looked like a tunnel, slick with moss and dark as coal. And that smell like wet ash and rotting leaves seeped out with every breath of wind. Behind me, the woman in the mirror raised both hands to the glass and mouthed something. 3 words. "Don't go in." My body froze. But before I could process it, I heard footsteps above me and Jared's voice yelling down the stairs. "Claire, are you okay? What's going on down there?" I shouted back, "I'm fine, just don't come down. Not yet." Too late. I heard the wooden rungs creak as he climbed down. A moment later, his flashlight beam joined mine in the dim chamber. His eyes widened at the mirror and then at the open door behind me. "What is this place?" he whispered. I shook my head. I didn't know this was under the house. Then we both heard it. A noise from the tunnel. Wet. Shuffling. Closer. Jared raised the flashlight and pointed it down the dark corridor. And for a second, we both stopped breathing. Something was moving in there. Not walking, crawling. Its shape wasn't clear, just the slick reflection of pale limbs slithering over stone, too long to be human, too fast to be animal. We backed away, slowly. But the voice came again. Not from the mirror, not from the tunnel. From inside my head. "Bring them in." Jared gasped. "Did you hear that?" I nodded, trembling. It was inside me. The woman in the mirror banged on the glass, her mouth wide, screaming. But we couldn't hear her anymore. Her reflection began to bleed. Crimson lines streaked across the inside of the mirror. Her image blurred, warped. Then crack. The mirror split. A jagged fracture ran straight through her face. And from the tunnel, something growled. Not animal, not human. Something ancient. And it knew my name. Cliffhanger. What creature is emerging, and why is it connected to Claire? Jared dropped the flashlight. It clattered to the stone floor, the beam spinning wildly across the chamber landing for one terrible second on it. It stood at the edge of the tunnel. Tall. Too tall. Its skin looked stretched, almost translucent, like old wax pulled too tight. Its head was tilted to one side, eyes black, and sunken arms long enough to scrape the floor with fingers like bone needles. But the worst part? It smiled. Not like a person. Like it recognized me. "Claire," it whispered in a voice that sounded like 1,000 voices stitched together. "You came back." Jared screamed and stumbled backwards, knocking into the mirror. The cracked glass groaned but didn't shatter. I couldn't move. My heart pounded, my knees locked. The creature took a step forward, slow, deliberate. I waited, it said, beneath the roots where the blood fell. Where you left me. I don't know you, I whispered. It tilted its head further. Don't you... Then its face shifted, just slightly. The cheekbones, the chin. It looked like me. A twisted version. Gaunt. Hollow. As if all the light had been drained from my soul and trapped in this thing. Jared grabbed my arm. We have to go now. But I couldn't stop staring. My head throbbed. Visions flashed behind my eyes, images I didn't recognize. A fire in the woods. A woman running, dragging a small child behind her. Whispers in the trees. A sacrifice. Was I seeing memories? The creature stepped into the room fully now. Its bare feet made no sound on the stone. It raised a hand and pointed to my chest. There is a door inside you, it said. You sealed it once. You must open it again. The mirror behind us suddenly shattered. Samantha and Nicole screamed above as glass exploded upward from the pantry hatch. And with that sound, the storm returned louder than ever. Rain pounded the roof. Lightning flashed. The wind howled. And inside my tiny house, something had awakened. Something my family couldn't laugh away. Something they brought with them. And it wanted all of us. We scrambled up the crawlspace ladder as the house shook violently overhead. Jared's foot slipped, and I had to grab his arm and pull him up with everything I had. Dust and splinters rained down around us as we emerged into the pantry. Nicole was crying, curled in the corner. Samantha stood frozen by the front window, staring out into the storm. It's not normal, she whispered. Claire, the trees, they're moving. I rushed to the window beside her and saw what she meant. The tall pine trees outside, rooted and still for decades, were bending inward. Not from wind, but from something unseen. Like they were bowing toward the house, or trying to trap it. Their limbs twisted like fingers, scratching at the roof, pressing against the walls. And the wind, it wasn't howling anymore. It was chanting, low and rhythmic, like an ancient choir rising through the storm. The sound burrowed into my spine, vibrating in a way that felt like it was pulling memories out of me. I turned back to the others. There's something buried here, something older than this house. You think Jared snapped? There's a bone monster in your basement. But he wasn't wrong. None of this made sense. Unless the house wasn't cursed. I ran to the small chest in the living room, the one I'd never opened, left behind by the previous owner when I bought the house. I had always meant to throw it away, but something made me keep it. Inside letters, photos, a locket, an old journal. I flipped through trembling pages, dates, going back more than a century. And that's when I found it, a photograph of a woman, standing in front of a cabin that looked just like mine. Her face was mine. My knees gave out. Samantha rushed over. Claire, what is it? I held up the photo. This isn't me. It's from 1906. But it is you, Nicole whispered. The journal confirmed it. My great-great-grandmother, Eleanor Renshaw, the last woman in our bloodline to live here. She wrote about the creature. She called it the memory that waits beneath, a being that came during storms. It fed on family secrets, on shame, on guilt passed from one generation to the next. And once awakened, it would never leave willingly. In her final entry, she wrote, I sealed it below with my own blood. But the key is not in the earth. It is in the ones who carry my name. I felt the blood drain from my face. This wasn't a haunting. It was a summoning. And we had answered it. We were never supposed to be here together. That's what I kept thinking as I sat on the cold floor, Eleanor's journal in my lap. The house creaking like it was breathing through its bones. Outside, the trees pressed tighter. Their limbs scraped glass. The wind no longer howled, it spoke. Calling, beckoning. Jared sat with his head in his hands. Nicole rocked silently, her arms wrapped tight around her knees. Samantha hovered near the broken mirror, too afraid to look down the hatch again. Do you get it now? I whispered, barely able to say the words aloud. It didn't wake up because of me. It woke up because of us. Because we're all connected by the same guilt. Nicole looked up, her voice barely audible. What are you talking about? This house, it's like a vessel. It holds whatever we bring into it. Secrets. Lies, cruelty. Samantha scoffed. We didn't do anything. No, I snapped. You mocked me, laughed at me, treated me like trash for not having what you had. You came into this house with your pride, your judgment, and underneath all that, you're scared. You hate the idea that I survived without you. They went quiet. I read the next line of the journal aloud, my voice trembling. The creature does not kill. It consumes pain. And when it feasts on enough, it becomes you. Nicole's lips parted in horror. You mean it copies people? No, I said. It becomes them. The more you feed it with guilt and shame, the more it reflects who you are. Until one day you can't tell the difference between the monster and yourself. Suddenly, the mirror, now only shards across the floor, began to hum, a low vibration that filled the entire room. Samantha backed away. Claire, what's happening? The pieces of glass started to float. One by one, they lifted into the air, rearranging. The cracked reflections of all four of us flickered in each shard like a shattered puzzle. And then, slam, the pantry door burst open, and the creature was inside the house. It didn't crawl or sneak. It walked, upright, graceful, calm. It looked more like me than ever before. Its face was nearly identical now. Eyes gray like mine, same scar on the chin, same tired sadness behind the smile. And when it spoke, its voice was mine. Let them feel what you felt, it whispered. Let them sleep in the shame they gave you, or feed me, and I'll make it all go away. Samantha screamed. Nicole scrambled behind the couch. Jared stood his fists clenched. Get out of our heads. But the creature wasn't speaking to him. It was still looking at me. And I had a choice. Let it consume them. Or face it myself, the creature waited. Not attacking, not chasing, just standing there inside my house, smiling with my face. Like it already knew what I would choose. Outside, the storm screamed louder than ever, but inside, time seemed to slow. The mirror shards still floated midair, each one capturing a broken glimpse of Houseâ, Jared, Samantha, Nicole, and it. I stepped forward. Jared grabbed my arm. Claire, don't. I have to, I said, my voice quiet but clear. It's not after you, it never was, it wants me. The creature nodded slowly. She understands. Nicole whimpered from behind the couch. There has to be another way. Don't do this. But the words from Eleanor's journal pulsed in my mind like thunder. Only the blood that birthed it can end it. I reached for the locket I'd found in the chest, the one with Eleanor's initials engraved inside. I opened it. A dried lock of hair, a photo of a child, and a note. We are the end and the beginning. It clicked. Eleanor hadn't just sealed the creature away. She bound it to her bloodline. To me, and maybe I could do the same. I looked at the creature. You want to become me. It tilted its head. I am you, it said. Then take the guilt, I said through gritted teeth. Take the pain, take the shame. But you don't get to stay. I stepped into the circle of floating glass. The air turned heavy, the storm silenced. The creature reached out its hand, but instead of taking it, I reached into my own pocket and pulled out the old iron key I had found taped inside the back of the journal. I didn't know what it opened. Until now. There was a tiny trapdoor under the rugon I had thought led nowhere. I had ignored it for months. I dropped to my knees, shoved the rug aside, and unlocked it. A small stone box sat beneath it. Inside ash, and something else. A thin curved dagger blackened by time. I picked it up. The creature flinched. You know what this is, don't you? I whispered. It didn't answer. But the smile disappeared. I stood holding the dagger in one hand, the locket in the other. I don't need to feed you anymore, I said, because I finally remember who I am. And then I cut my palm. Blood hit the floor. The mirror shards spun violently around me like glass caught in a cyclone. The creature screamed, not with pain, with rage. Its body began to fracture. Lines split across its face cracks like breaking porcelain. It reached out one last time, but I took a step back and said, this is my house, not yours. And with that, it shattered. A sound like 1,000 mirrors breaking all at once. The storm outside stopped. Dead silence. Just the wind brushing through the trees and the smell of earth after rain. The glass dropped. The house stopped shaking. And the thing was gone. Jared was speechless. Nicole wept openly. Samantha dropped to her knees and whispered, what was that? I didn't answer right away. I walked to the front door, opened it, and stepped out into the dawn. The sky was clearing, the air was fresh, and behind me stood the same small house they once mocked. But now, it had saved them. In the days that followed, something shifted, not just in the house, but in all of us. Jared started helping around the cabin without being asked. He repaired the gutter, patched the roof, even fixed the broken pantry door. Nicole stayed quiet most of the time, folding laundry, sweeping, trying not to tremble when the floor creaked. And Samantha, she barely looked me in the eye, until the night she knocked on my bedroom door. I opened it, half expecting another sarcastic remark. But instead, she handed me the photo of Eleanor and said, she looks just like you. You think that's why it chose this house? I nodded. It didn't choose. It waited. She hesitated. I'm sorry. For how we treated you. For laughing at this place. I thought you were just being stubborn. But you were building something. You built safety. We came in with our egos, our selfishness, and nearly got all of us killed. Her voice cracked. It wasn't just a creature, was it? She whispered. It was everything we buried. I didn't answer, because some truths are felt, not spoken. The next morning, I lit a small fire in the backyard pit. One by one, we each threw something into it. Nicole burned a letter she had never mailed to her mother. Jared dropped in an old watch his father had given him, the same father who disowned him. Samantha added her wedding ring. Her marriage had ended months ago, but she never told anyone. And me, I burned Eleanor's locket, not to forget her, but to let her rest. When the smoke rose into the air, it felt like a veil lifting. The trees stood still, the sky stretched clear, and the house felt light for the first time since I moved in. Later that week, when the storm damage was cleaned up and the roads reopened, I offered to help them leave. They refused, not out of fear, but because for the first time, this house wasn't small to them anymore. It was shelter. It was truth. It was earned. We planted a new tree together near the back porch of red maple, just like the ones that lined the street I grew up on. The tree grew quickly, roots deep and unbothered by the past. But sometimes, late at night when the wind gets just strong enough, I still hear the whisper beneath the floor. Not a threat, not a curse, just a memory, waiting, because some houses don't forget, and neither do the ones who survive them.